why is there such a rush to assess what this means or what they meant? It's like, we have time. Yeah. Like, and at the end of the day, I also have a problem with accused versus conviction. I don't care if it's settled. If it's not a guilty, I don't know how long a person is supposed to continue to carry forward an accusation. Because at the end of the day, he settled. So if I'm putting on my business hat, settlement sometimes means you don't think you will win in court, which is fine.
DNA, there was DNA. There was blood.
Nobody never said they didn't have sex. And even sex, sorry for the kids.
To me, don't cheat on your wife.
I mean, but that's not illegal. It's
no, it's not illegal, but it would. But it's like
it's a moral indictment.
Gayle did not have sex with the young lady. Gayle did not cheat on the wife. Gayle did not put herself in that predicament. Gayle just asked a question.
But Gayle also had interviewed Kobe before then. So again, this rush for legacy assessment.
Like,
but I love Kobe. I'm just saying.
No, I get it.
Angles.
But why rush?
Can I just say something?
No, we have you on here to listen.
It was just too soon. That's just the bottom line. It was too soon. There is so much trauma that happened in that experience.
Right.
That she could have asked that question when people begin to heal. Because the grieving process in itself is devastating. Yeah. And it's layers of it in this experience. We will all remember where we were when we heard this.
Absolutely.
It's just too soon.
So do you think that she's deserving of the backlash?
No. I think... Sorry.
You're fine.
I also came out really strong on the opposite side. You can say it's too soon, she should have waited.
It was a mistake.
It's a mistake, I didn't like it. But the name calling and it's like literally, and I will be honest and say I don't really agree with cancel culture.
Oh, that cancel culture is strong.
I don't agree with it at all for anybody. I don't care what you did. Because if you want to cancel a person, stop spending your money. That's on you.
Right.
Don't put it on me to also have to do that. So I don't really agree with it at all. However, I just think, it's like, can you be mad and not take it too far? We were, before we started rolling, talking about fighting fair. That's not a fair fight.
So what do you feel about that? Dr. Gigi. Gigi. I said Gigi. I know you. I'm over here saying Dr. Gigi.
Yeah. I feel like what made this more difficult was her response.
It was such bullshit.
Talking about...
Sorry for the kids again.
Talking about the clip that CBS put out, I really struggled with that because I watched the whole video and she did push. And it was almost like she was looking for another answer.
A follow-up.
She had follow-up. She had 3 follow-ups.
Yeah.
And so I agree. But I would say this. If you've been veteran and you can't ring the I'm doing my job bell, I'm a journalist and I take this seriously, and then say, I didn't think they would pick the most salacious parts of my interview for a clip.
Right.
I think she was doing that for battered women, though. I think she was doing that as to say, because there is a lot of women who were saying that this needs to be addressed.
And that's great.
And it's been covered up, and there were a lot of, and so a lot of those women are in her circle, those people in her ear, and I think she wasn't doing it for the people that was hurt from COVID. She was doing it for the women that have experienced rape, and the women that feel like rape is always put under the rug, and she was like, I'm gonna force this to show those people, and I think she calculated it's more worth the risk of my career, or risk of what, I don't think she thought her career would be at fault, but it's worth the backlash for me to ask this question, and CBS is gonna recognize me. I think it was career oriented too.
I would say this, and then we're gonna move on to the real topic tonight.
This is relevant though. This is a relationships, rapes. Well, it's relevant to me.
But I would say this. I think at the end of the day, if you have a cause, if you have a mantle to assume, if you are representing a group, then maybe the question is, was Gayle King the right person to have that legacy type of how are you doing assessment interview then? Because if that's your mantle and what you want to do is stand up for women who have been sexually assaulted, you may not be the person.
Well, Leslie, okay.
Just too soon. I mean, there's nothing else to say because he is not even buried yet.
Yeah.
None of them are even buried yet.
Yeah.
And I think, and Leslie was aware. She was fully aware of the questions, and she also spoke to Gayle right after the interview and approved. Like, she was fully aware of what was happening, and I think her addressing it, and if I wish she could have, I mean, we can't tell people what to do, but it would have been great if she could have addressed it like early on, to say either I support or I do not support. And I think that would have led the movement in a different direction or the same direction. And because she was silent and people were speaking on her behalf, I think it diffused the argument. And now you have people coming out saying, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I went against Gayle. I'm sorry that, because now, of course Gayle apologized. Even though it was considered BS, apologizing always works. Because it lets people know they can say, oh, she didn't mean, they can speak for her, but her coming out and saying, no, I didn't intend for this to happen. That was the best PR move she could do in that situation.
Well, to me, it was PR and it was genuine.
But they told her, CBS told her not to say anything.
Well, you know, she can, if you apologize, if you're literally saying,
Did she apologize?
She did not.
She apologized.
What she said was,
in that first video,
this wasn't my fault, and, you know, if they hadn't done X, Y, and Z, then, you know, this had happened and she was okay and blah, blah, blah. It's like, why are we talking then? If you think it's fine.
It's true, like, they do crop things. I don't think she expected them to say, this Kobe interview is based on this right here, this topic. It was an hour-long, you know, I didn't think she thought that it was
I can tell you this from experience. I have done interviews, 6, 7, 8-hour interviews with a reporter or somebody who's looking for a story. And they pulled the 32 seconds where I said one crazy thing.
And I felt the same way. I've done them, and I've said, I specifically want you to talk about this, and the producer comes up with whatever narrative they want to put out.
So, bottom line, she knew what she was doing both ways, right? So I don't think she thought she would receive the backlash she received. And I think leading up into today's topic, when we talk about, it's all about relationships today.
Yes.
So we know Valentine's Day is on Friday. And we are talking about relationships, not just romantic ones, but relationships you have with your fans and your audience base, your customers, your creditors, partner, you know, everybody that you have to interact with. So we're talking all about relationships today. So you're right, this was very much on topic. And I think last words, and I'll give everybody last words on it. Last words is, I think she took for granted the relationship she had with her audience. And I think it's very easy to do and think, hey, I'm X, Y, and Z, and I assume this mantle, and people know I have this platform, so they should give me the leeway, right? And we can all overstep those boundaries when we assume and take for granted the trust that our relationships have afforded us. So that's my last word on it.
Well, and I think she did try to push the envelope a little bit to maybe get ratings, to build more of an audience, to create more buzz, but did not expect the backlash because people are emotionally wounded. And so their grief turned into anger.
And I think that she did not intentionally do it in a way to hurt Kobe's legacy. When I saw it as a way of, she was doing her job. And she was asking a question that was being said. It was articles already written about it. As a journalist, an investigative journalist, it's your job to kind of probe the whole legacy of someone. Now, personally, she should have thought about it on a personal, you know, taking off her journalist hat and thought about what has already been said about Oprah and herself in relations to white rapists and versus black rapists. And I thought they would learn their lesson with R. Kelly. So I think this was a lesson learned, but I also think that we, for those that were outraged, for those that were supporting Gayle, like, I think we all should just look at ourselves and say, should we cancel people or should we judge people by their works? And I think if we judge Gayle by her works and Oprah by their works, I think that we will be more tolerable of mistakes.
That's good.
Because it's like a boomerang effect. I was talking about black people. We hate on black people, but a boomerang can hit you back in your face. Every time you talk about a black person, it's like you need to look in the mirror. You're cracking your own mirror.
I would say anytime you talk about any person, because as soon as you throw a stone, you gotta best believe somebody got a stone that they can throw back at you.
Right.
So, all right, this is In Your Business for everybody who is tuned in and is trying to figure out where we are in this conversation. So, In Your Business, this is February 10th. 2020 for the live folks, and it's later on during Valentine's week for
y'all.
those who are listening via podcast. But today we are talking all about relationships.
Yes.
And we're talking about how to build them, how to sustain them, what to do, and we're even going to tackle a little bit of a controversial topic on should you work with the person that you are romantic or intimate with. But we'll save that to the end. But as you can see, we do have a guest, and if you can't see, you can hear. There's a third voice today. So along with myself and Cathay, we have Dr. Gigi. Is it Galore?
Hamilton.
Hamilton.
Yeah.
You know, Gigi Hamilton. She got a long name.
That's
but
my legal name. We try not to use that too often. Yeah.
Dr. Gigi is here with us. So we are going to let her introduce herself. So tell us who you are, what you do, and we're going to jump right in after that.
Okay, so Dr. Gigi Hamilton. I have lived in Charlotte for about 18 years now, so I love the Queen City. Shout out. I'm an organizational psychologist as well as a licensed psychotherapist. So I've been a psychotherapist now for over 25 years. Have my own private practice, which is a counseling and consulting firm. And we do all things relationships, whether that's from a corporate perspective or for therapy as it relates to individual, couples, groups. I'm a university professor, at Northwestern University, and I teach students how to become therapists.
This is amazing.
One more thing, though.
One more thing.
And I'm also an author. I've written 9 books.
Oh, wow.
So I was told that you need a pen and a pad always to watch in your business, so I hope you do have your pen and pad ready because we have a bona fide expert on relationships. And we're not playing today.
And share, tag people. Their relationships, I mean, when it comes to partnerships, it comes to how you do business. What I say is a relationships are your business. That is how you maintain your business is through relationships. Mm-hmm. And you'll learn that relationships open many doors. Mm-hmm. And a bad relationship will shut many doors. Yeah. And so right now, anybody that you know that owns a business, even if it's unrelated to business, tag people, share, comment, and enjoy this episode. It's a valuable episode.
So let's talk about relationships, because generally, and I can tell you from experience, when I say we're going to talk about relationships, somebody said to me, well, don't y'all talk about business? But you're right, business is all about relationships. Right. One of the things that we hear about Charlotte always is that we're cliquish. Mm-hmm. And I heard somebody say, well, we're not cliquish, we're relational. Mm-hmm. And they're really, we could quibble about the meaning of those words, but being relational means I'm going to do business with you because I trust and have a relationship with you, not just because you offer up a service. Mm-hmm. And so we're going to talk about relationship from, the owner to customer perspective, or, business owner out. Mm-hmm. So that's B2C, mm-hmm. business to business, so that's B2B. Talk about your relationship with your employees. Mm. And then talk about your relationships as it relates to your creditors. Mm-hmm. So I'm an investment, and that is probably A1 prime for me. And speaking of relationships, I'm watching people join in, and I see one of my clients and somebody that I've built quite a relationship with over the last few years, Tia Lyles Williams, as well as David Yancey and a few others, and Niger. Actually, we've struck up a relationship. Niger. We struck up a relationship randomly in Packard Place.
Niger's on my advisory board.
Exactly.
She's amazing.
Hi Niger. We just had a conversation just out of nowhere, and it ended up being a really meaningful discussion, and from there, things really blossom. So I just wanted to shout out the people who continually support us.
Absolutely.
Because of our relationships and how we interact.
And thanks for all the shares. I'm seeing a lot of shares. That's awesome, y'all.
Okay, so we're all business owners. So you're in private practice. Mm-hmm. You own businesses. Mm-hmm. I own business. Which relationship, so this is a controversial question, which relationship do you cater to the most? Your relationship between you and your customers, you and your employees, or you and your creditors?
Dr. Gigi?
So can I say all?
No.
Okay. Shameless plug. So they're all important, but You have to have a good relationship with your creditors. We go out to lunch on a regular. I do
Wow.
with mine because I keep them informed. Because it isn't what you do; it's what they know about you and how much they trust you. So I keep them updated.
And the more valuable their relationship, the more they may be willing to fund you.
Absolutely.
And so I totally get this.
Yeah.
Because I love that you stated that, because they're not creditors, but they are not even lenders, supporters of BBOC.
Yes.
And it's a couple of people that is private. No one knows about it, except for my team. My executive team knows about it. I sit down and have breakfast and lunch with like these wealthy people who runs foundations,
We'll
and
call
we
them
literally
sponsors.
send out sponsors. They are sponsors. I mean, it's not like under the table thing, but they are sponsors, and they sponsor through Foundations for Carolinas. But I have a sit down with them quarterly, and we literally talk about what went wrong, what went right, and I saw the value in it last year. Really, when I was at a place where I'm like, BBOC, we need funding for different things. And it wasn't just what they could provide, it was who they had relationships with. And they said, talk to this person, talk to that person, talk to this person. And just sitting down in 30 minutes, an hour for lunch, it was worth more than months and months of emails and calls to sponsors.
Yeah, and so you mentioned when you're having your quarterly meetings, you talk about what went wrong.
Yes.
I feel as African American business owners, we don't always have the luxury of failure. When failure is a part of how we grow, right?
Yes.
So if you're in touch with the powers that be as it relates to the finances, when you're failing at that point, they're not going to let you fail too far. They're going to actually
Right.
help you in that space. So they are the most important in that
I
respect.
love it.
Yeah.
So, and I'll say this, I will take the exact opposite approach and say, you said you can't, I said you can't say all, but I will say my creditors and employees are probably the two relationships that I toggle the most.
Yeah.
For two reasons. One, I can't grow without either of them. So to be,
That's all.
that's not all. That's not all. But I will
She
say,
did kind of swoop in.
look, I set my own rules. I'm a rule breaker.
Because I was going to say it sounds like I'm piggybacking, but I'm not. I really was going to say, for my answer would be my executive team, because I feel the same way. Because it's been many times where we had no funds. So funding wasn't even an option until last year. So it was, I was self-funded.
Yeah.
We were self-sustained. It wasn't like we were looking for funding from other sources or creditors or whatever. Or owe a lot of people, which was a good thing. We didn't have a lot of debt either.
Yeah.
So my executive team and the advisory boards and those on my team, those relationships, we do retreats all the time, invaluable, because it's like, I can tell them anything, and I can trust them with any type of concerns that I may have.
So I'll tighten up my answer and say, really, for me, it is creditors. Although they aren't creditors for me, they're generally investors or lenders.
Yeah.
And you said something that was really interesting in the sense that should we, or how do we grow if we don't have an opportunity to fail?
Yeah.
What I find is twofold with business owners when we build that relationship. When it's new, we don't have enough trust built in that you want to see people, you don't want to be transparent, but you need that transparency in order to build trust.
Yes.
And so for me, one of the things I tell people very quickly, since I'm in the business of lending money, or not lending, I invest money. But because I'm in that business, I'm not going to trust you if you lying to me.
Yeah.
So I would rather you say, hey, hello, something's going on. I thought this was the good way to do it, but this is not turning out, instead of, dip and dodge and trying to figure out how to double back. So I never know, because as an investor, I've already taken the risk of losing my money. However, that's a part of, being a risk taker. However, if you, as the person I invested in, doesn't trust me enough in order to just tell me this is not going well, then that tells me that I shouldn't have trusted you with your money, and I don't like making them kind of mistakes.
But you know what makes that difficult is we've probably been seasoned and been in business for a while, so we're comfortable with failure. New people that are getting into the business realm, they're afraid of failure, so they run from it.
Right.
And so they're not quick to say, I'm struggling, right?
And we talked about that before. Ability partner, and go back on our episode back in November that we talked about, you know, maintaining those type of relationships. And I love that you brought that up because it's vital.
I think where that starts from is, and you said you're a professor. I know you've taught before. Questions. You know how many times you stand in front of a class and people have no idea what you're talking about?
Right.
And they can't just say, I'm lost.
Yeah.
I have found that we have groomed our children from a very young age to not ask questions. Either you're a child, don't ask me no questions, or, you know, that ain't got nothing to do with you, or why you don't know the answer. And I've been told, and I'm not a therapist here, but I've been told that a lot of times that reluctance to answer questions is because the person you ask may not have known the answer and they don't want to look foolish. And so you end up, you start internalizing, I can't ask questions. If I can't ask questions, then I don't know that I'm going the wrong path. And if I'm going down the wrong path, then I don't know to say, hey, Dr. Shantae, you're about to lose all your money because I can't ask a question. Hey, how do I turn this ship around?
Yeah.
That's
and
great.
I'll also add to that, because that's a great point. I'm sitting here like, be still, just be calm, right? So African Americans, we all struggle with imposter syndrome, right? And that's the ability to show up every day with the thought that the world is going to figure out we're frauds. So that keeps us stuck. It keeps us in a box. It keeps us from being risky, taking risk, and it also keeps us from really thriving. So we kind of stay in our comfortable space, and we're not raising our hand because we're afraid to have someone look at us and say, well, you don't know what you're doing, or you don't know what you're talking about.
And I think that goes into like beyond just talking about, you know, it just goes so far. Like even when it comes, we say, why don't black people protest more? Why don't black people speak out more? It's like they like to stay in their comfort zone, in that box, because then they can defend their boss, they can defend their employees, they can defend their coworkers, and it's like I try to advise people to be as authentic as you can in what you're doing, just in case something happens, and it you can basically stand up and say, yes, I did it. I was able to admit to that I did it. But yeah, I totally agree. I think we are afraid to stand out. We're afraid to stand out because we already feel like we stand out.
You know, I will say this, as far as really embracing and thinking about imposter syndrome, one of the things that really changed my life as a scholar, as a professional person, was when I was in the clinic and my advisor said the thing that I don't think you're supposed to say. He said, I don't understand why you're so nervous. And I was like, you know, and I'm nervous because I'm junior on the team, I've been put on the spot. And he said, they're just as dumb as you are.
Oh, wow.
And that particular comment sounds really offensive, right? However, what he's saying is they don't know any more than you.
Right.
So you need to present yourself out there as confident. Now, don't go off the path and just say stuff and make stuff up. However, what you're perceiving a knowledge base that other people don't have, and stop measuring yourself that way. And once he said that to me, I've given banking talks to bankers. And I'm not a banker, you know, and it's like, how do you stand up there and tell them X, Y, and Z? And it's because at the end of the day, if you got me speaking to you, you're just as dumb as I am.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with that. So I hope, you know, one day if I have children, and I try to instill this into my nephew, is own what you know, and what you don't know, say, I don't know, because as soon as you say you don't know, you gain another piece of knowledge.
Right, because there's a difference between feeling like you're a fraud compared to showing up saying, I need the answers. Can you teach me?
I love it. And I was watching a clip from Run DMC, and he just did the Grammys, and he was on Ellen, and he was talking about how, you know, he'd done hundreds of shows, right? He was talking about how nervous he was, and he didn't want to come on stage and look like somebody didn't know what they were doing. And Ellen was like, you've been doing this for years. Why would you be nervous? He said, I'm nervous every single time. And it's like, it just made me realize, like, we all are nervous. We all feel dumb sometimes. We all feel like that. And you just got to learn to just turn it off. Because he said as soon as he's on stage, he knows how to turn it off.
Yeah. Similar story to Shantae's was one time as soon as I got my PhD, one of my colleagues told me, expect to crash emotionally when you get this, because I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, dude, I know what I'm doing. I got this.
Yeah.
I'm already in my practice.
Yeah.
And literally, the ink was not even dry, and I could not get out of bed, and I couldn't understand it. And I met this professor, and he was like, come over here and let's do this project together. I mean, he flew me to Florida. We did this thing, and I could not leave the hotel room to go and present, and because I was so nervous, because although I did all the work, there was a process that I realized I had to go through to become this PhD person in that respect. Well, anyway, so I tell the guy, the professor, about imposter syndrome, and he says to me, I'm still waiting for them to figure out I'm a fraud. Same experience. He has all this experience, and he has it too. So a lot of what we have to help people understand is we all have it. Once we understand that, then we can grow from it.
Exactly. So I asked that opening question about whose relationship is most important. What do you guys think the common thread is through all of those relationships, whether it's with your customers, or other businesses, your creditors, or your employees? What's kind of the common thread?
Communication.
Communication?
Building the relationship, like actually building it, and not just having a hit or miss, but it's a continuous process. It's ongoing. Yeah.
So for me, it's trust. I stopped doing business with people I don't trust, which can be really risky, right? Because if you think about we'll call it a quick book. I don't know if it's really a quick book, but what I found is I cannot be looking over my shoulder. I can't worry about what you're going to say when I'm not around.
Right.
It's just not worth it for me. So now, if I get that gut feeling, ooh.
Yeah.
And it's like, even working, like, well, Shanti and I, we just like sisters and brothers, but it's like, you need to, whoever you're around on a constant basis, you need to be able to trust them.
Absolutely. There's no question.
There's no question.
I agree. Trust is huge.
Yeah. So you said communication. Tell me why communication.
Communication is like what we don't, like you were saying earlier, we don't tell people what's going on. And what I had, running an organization, and it's not good running an organization, I initially did it mostly everything by myself. As I had a team, I had to learn to delegate, advise things, allow people to handle things, and me not saying we need this hurt BBOC. And so the more I communicated, the better things were. The better our relationships, the more they trusted me, the more we build. All those things came from me being more communicative.
That makes sense.
Now, you said something that I think people just completely glaze over, especially in business. So we talk about taking the leap. And for whatever reason, people always think, I started a business, where are the customers? Right? I've been open for 42 minutes. Where y'all at, right? And that is one of those things where it's crazy because did you build a relationship with anybody? We talk about marketing, we talk about branding. Did you build a relationship to have people come in your front door?
Yeah, that's the notion, build it and they will come. There's a lot in between that's missing in that statement, right?
Right. And like you could launch something right now. Any one of us could say, I'm doing this tomorrow. And the people that already support us, which I've learned that so much, they could be like I do different things, painting, with different things that I do. It could be landscaping. I've noticed that people will hire me or come to events that were, I was at your sip and paint class, or I booked you for this, or all those are relationships. And so it's not just like, what have you done for this particular business? What have you done in general? And the people how have you sustained the relationships that you've come across?
So Doctor, how do we build, first time out, how do you build or start to build a relationship?
So one of the things I love to talk about is networking, right? We often tell people to go to networking events. We tell them to have nice business cards, pass the business cards out, have lunch or coffee with that person, and I think that's great. But the piece that's missing is when that person sits down and says to you, so what can I do for you? Then you start talking about your needs, right? I wouldn't trust someone who does that. So what I do when I meet people, in that respect, I say, you can't do anything for me. Let's get to know each other, and the answer will manifest over time, right? Let's just get to know each other.
That is big.
It's huge.
That's
my big secret.
That is
y'all.
huge. Like when my team, if any of my team is on there, they will ask you, like they'll come, if the people that's interested to be on the team, they'll say, I want to help BBOC. And every single time, I'll say, what do you want in life? What do you want out of your career? Because I can tell you the needs all day. So it's like I've never really said that, but it's like it's exactly how I formulate my team.
Yeah.
Well, I hate the same thing. People come up and say, and again, this is a part of, branding. Oh, you're the investor lady. You know how many people come up and say, I need $1 million? Well, hell, me too.
Yeah. Right.
So what am I supposed to do with that? I don't know you. I don't know your
Right.
business. Or they immediately start data dumping. This is a great opportunity, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, I'm looking for like the trap door to get
Absolutely.
the heck out of that situation, because really, I don't know you.
Yeah.
I'm probably here for something else altogether, and you didn't start a relationship. I don't want your business card. I don't want to hear about your company. You didn't take the time to even, verify that I'm the right black girl.
Absolutely.
Right.
And another tidbit that I learned along the way is when you're in touch with someone, first of all, they walk away feeling refreshed after you've had that conversation. I talk with my hands, so I keep hitting the mic. It's that teacher thing.
I do it all the time.
Right. But the other thing is, if you have their email contact, send them articles, right? Send them books that you enjoy. Create the relationship.
Send them
Be
things.
useful.
No,
Yeah.
don't just be the gimme person.
Yes, so you're a giver, right?
Yeah.
Become the giver, and it changes everything.
So
And knowledge is power. Like you just basically said, it's free. It's like tell them something that's like a token to them, a nugget that they can take away.
Saw
To
this
say
and
you
thought
gave
of
me
you.
something.
Yeah.
Now I feel like I owe you. Even though I don't
Oh,
owe
okay.
you, I feel like I owe you. It's like a psyche. It's
Right,
almost like I owe you now.
Yeah.
You've given me something. You've helped me. Now I want to help you.
now, see, in today's political climate, a quid pro quo is not a good
It's
thing.
what it is. Though. It is what it is. But quid
you
pro
hold
quo
your
is on
ass.
paper, though.
Right.
But you hold your ass.
You hold your ask. You only get one ask, by the way.
That is true.
And so you have to know when and how to use that.
Exactly. So I used to chuckle at people who were smokers, right? And I never smoked cigarettes. But they used to, like, somebody stand on the corner and they're having a cigarette, and then the person says, "Oh, can I bum one of those?" So you give them a cigarette, and they go, "Oh, can I have a lighter too?" And funniest thing ever, the person turned and said, "What did you come with? Just a habit?"
That's hilarious.
Where you're just asking and asking and asking.
Yeah.
You get one.
Right. You get one
Right.
ask.
After that, walk away. So I
Right.
love the fact that you just said, hold your ask and make the ask meaningful.
Yes.
Right.
Don't ask for, and I a few years ago wrote an article called "People Know How to Beg for Money, They Don't Know How to Ask for Money."
Yeah.
And that's because people don't generally say, you built a relationship, and when it's time for the ask, instead of saying what you need, this is what it's going to take, you're trying to figure out what I'm willing to give you.
Yeah.
And to me, that means there's no trust in our relationship, because I would never want to invest in a handicapped enterprise because I'm giving you less than what you actually need. So I like the hold your ask. That's a real good nugget. And then instead of jumping in a networking conversation and just data dumping on anybody, no matter what it is that you do, say, let's get to know each other. You know how many conversations I walked away from and I just went, oh my God, I forgot to ask them how to get in contact with them. So the next time I see them, and we all know Charlotte is relatively small,
Right.
Yeah.
then I was like, oh my gosh. Or, I see them on LinkedIn or something, and I go, we had such a good conversation, and I remember everything, but I forgot to ask their name.
And then when we talked, I think we talked about like one of our first episodes. But one of the things that really helps is to ask a person things like, where are you from? You want to ask relatable things like, where are you from? Where do your kids go to school? What's your favorite thing, like football or something that they can relate to? And once you find that thing, like really go in with it,
Because we're
until
humans.
and so then they build trust with you. Y'all can relate. They feel like, you know what, this person is just like me, and then you start to add on the other things from there.
So I like to ask native Charlotteans who Sharon is.
Who's Sharon is?
Yeah.
Sharon
Sharon.
Road, like Sharon
Sharon
Road.
Road, Sharon
Yeah.
Avenue, Sharon
Okay,
Lakes,
yeah,
Sharon
that's
Road
really
West.
good.
Right. It's such a conversation starter.
Yeah.
So.
And I like to tell people that I used to call Beatty's Ford Beatty's Ford, and because I didn't know,
No,
and it was like, you don't know the
friends.
Ford, and I was like, Beatty's Ford, and I was like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
what is Beatus for?
Right.
And that was like when I first got here, I had no idea.
Maria Road.
I thought it was a lady named Beatus
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah.
And I used to say, is it Rema? I used to say something else. I didn't say like the right thing.
Or Lancaster.
Yeah,
Well,
Lancaster.
I'm probably saying it like I live here.
And people
now,
will
so-
really go in on you if they're native from here. You don't
Right.
know how to pronounce things
Right.
correctly.
We just bless your heart and just move on with life.
I should have told nobody about the Beatus for.
I'm sorry, we
It's-
was
it's
never
all
been friends.
good.
I'd have been like,
I'm a confident person.
transparency, right?
Transparency. It's all day.
So we talked a little bit about initiating relationships. So when you're new in business, you got to venture out and you got to do the networking, you got to do the handshaking, you got to work the circuit, if you will. You got to go to conferences. But what happens after that? So how do you maintain? So we've met, we connected, we've had lunch or whatever. So we built a mini foundation, as I call it. This thin little futon mattress worth of relationship, right?
Yeah.
How do we strengthen and build up on that?
Well, you have to make it grow, right? You have to flower it, and so that's where the investment comes in. I think we have a tendency to think that every networking event, that those business cards are going to flourish for us, but they're not going to flourish unless we put the time, energy, and effort in. So that's that sweat equity that it takes to grow your business. It just doesn't happen by you having their card and telling them what your needs are.
Right. So I have found the best way to build and strengthen a relationship, again, hold your ass, but just keep, I feel like it's almost reminding them that you exist. Or I see them out at an event, hey, I saw that you were at the X, Y, and Z, really enjoyed your talk.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. They'll say thanks or whatever, and then move on. Or if something monumental happened in my business and I'm spreading the word, I have sent out, a quick little, hey, it's been a while since we touched base. I'd love to give you some updates, or just give them the updates. I don't need another meeting or a lunch or a coffee, just really saying, since the last time we talked, this happened. For a lot of people, especially in my field, that might actually steer them, oh, great, now it's time for me to jump in. Now I can help. Now they've hit a milestone that's important for me. And so that's what I do to keep growing relationships. And I'll say, if you don't know, there's a technical term, time to sell. So how much time from initial contact to when you actually make your first dollar, how long does that take you? A lot of people have no idea what their customer contact rate is, right? So for me, I know from the day I meet most people, if I'm trying to get them to invest money with me, it's probably going to take between 6 months and a year, which means that's a lot of time, right? So, they're not a bank, I'm not a bank. So I got to build a relationship, and then I can come back around in 9 to 12 months. And then, no matter what credibility or what the common link was, it takes me about a year. So that lead time, all that stuff we're doing in the middle, that's when I bear fruit in a year.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they're also watching.
And they are watching.
They're also watching. We have to remember that. So even though they're quiet, social media gives them the ability to watch.
Yeah.
And that's important because you validate how they can trust you because of that.
And we do realize, even with this show, like there are people watching. We see all of the thousands of views and things like that. And so we do see how this builds trust and this builds rapport. And so when you do approach, just us specifically, even you, Dr. Gigi, like I would say, like with me, people are always asking me things, and it's like directly beneficial to them. And it's like, it's rare that someone says, I have this that I want to present to BBOC. And when it does happen, it opens my eyes. And so if you want our attention, I think talking about what I said earlier, just be more giving in your ask. Or at least when they ask you, like when it's different when investing, it's of course, but it's like, show me your worth. Show me what's valuable to me. And it's not saying that it's not a greedy thing. It's not. It's more so you're asking for something from us. So be willing to give something in return.
In return for my investment, right?
Yeah.
So
Time, coffee.
Exactly. Now, y'all know I'm
I don't
notorious.
drink coffee, by the way, so
He don't drink coffee. He doesn't drink at all.
I don't drink
Just
alcohol.
water and juice.
Yeah.
When I am out and about, I don't like when people say, "Let me pick your brain for a minute,"
Because that means let me get a consultation for free.
I don't like it.
I don't even get to ask.
And see,
They just
so
go, right.
when people know that I have a cancer oncology background, you know how many people have just pulled down there, whatever, and show me, what do you think this is? Ma'am, call 911.
The people.
I mean, but that's one of those, like, I personally just don't like pick your brain sessions. I don't like asking to glean my knowledge base for free.
Yeah.
Friends or not, now I am a very giving person, and most people know that if it's easy enough for me to just spit it off, I will.
Right.
I mean, I just do.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's just, that's who I am. However, there are people that will take advantage. So, misusing a relationship. Let's talk about that for a minute.
And then I'm gonna quickly, like even with Shantae and I, like we talk all the time, and I'll still say if it's something that I'm interested in, I'll still say, if it's going into her realm of beyond the show, I'll say, what's your consultation? And I'll give her that option to say, this is not a consultation, this is a consultation. And I think that's with any friends that you have or co-workers or whatever, you should do that. You should at least give them the option to say yes or no for this.
That's a good point.
Look, my mama will tell you in a minute, I will send her an invoice.
Right.
And I love my mama to death. I will send to any family member, and they're okay with that because, one, this is my job. This is how I eat. However, they also know that I'm not just out here trying to get extra $5 because we have that trust and that rapport built up. So that's a really good point. And the more, if you give people that option, you'll be surprised how many people say, "Oh, that's all right."
You're right, exactly. But at least they have that option.
But misusing relationships.
Yeah.
How do we avoid misusing the relationships that took time, energy, and effort to build? Dr. Gigi.
So I'm trying to think about it from my own perspective because I have a tendency to give too much, right? So, but being a clinician, we have this subculture that was created in talking about being altruistic, right? So we're supposed to give. We're supposed to help people heal, right? So, and it's natural for me. I'm the keeper of the knowledge, right? So you're right. So I don't mind. Look how smart I am. Maybe that's what it is, right? But yeah, but that comes with a price at this point. So how we not misuse that is by what you just said, appreciating what people's worth are and understanding that, well, they get paid for this.
Yeah.
If they're going to give this to me, how can I then turn around and do the same? So, we just had bad weather, right? So one of my clients had to cancel because schools were closed the other day. And she called me and she said, hey, what's your cancellation fee? Because I'm not going to be able to make it today.
Right.
And she already knows that if you cancel within a certain time, you got to pay. And that's what it is.
So
and that's beautiful that she acknowledged that.
Yeah.
It sounds like then respect as the relationship continues to grow takes you a long way.
Yes.
So if I respect the relationship that I have with my mother or my child or the person who acts as my therapist or the person who acts as, the supporter or the vendor relationship, if I respect them, then I'm not looking for a freebie. I'm also willing to communicate, open and effectively to say, hey, I'm not going to make it. Hey, this isn't going well. Hey, this is what's happening. And I think that just continues to build trust because I am a person that a lot of people find difficult because I don't give the benefit of the doubt. I really don't. And it's not because I feel like you should be perfect, but I do feel like passes are earned. Passes aren't just given.
Wow.
So for me, it's if you communicate that you're failing, great. I'm not saying that's a pass. I'm just saying, okay, great. You told me, so we can keep working through this. But if what you're telling me is, you should just give me the benefit of the doubt. I don't know what that is. I come from a family where communicate, open up your mouth, use your words. But benefit of the doubt means that, at the end of, respect me enough to tell me what's going on, trust me enough that I won't misuse the information. But and I laugh because it's not that I don't give people benefit of the doubt, but in business, how many times have any of us dealt with a customer or a client that because they did something jacked up, now you are in a crazy position.
Oh yeah.
And now that trickle down effect or trickle up effect or whatever happens and you look crazy. Yeah. So now you got to not only handle that situation, but you're handling a situation with creditors or you're handling a situation with people who are relying on you to perform a service. I know, especially in the industry you're in, it's, you know, if you're a food truck and you're supposed to be a food truck Friday and you just decide, I ain't feel like driving all the way over there.
Right.
Guess what?
It's happened before.
Exactly. And it's like, it's a domino effect. And so we have to be more respectful of relationships and how they are garnered and how we should nurture them.
And I would also like to say, when it comes to black businesses, I thought this was important when you said that when one thing happens, it trickle down. When we go to Target and we go to Walmart, and I love Target, so I have no complaints. But when we go to Target and we have a bad experience, we blame Target. We go to Walmart, we have a bad experience, we blame Walmart. When we go to a black business and we have a bad experience, we blame everybody.
All black businesses.
And that's very, very.
That's why I don't work for
it is very sad, and we need to literally take that individually because it's common, it's communal that we all do that. But we need to stop it, and it's going to be an individual thing. You're going to have to say, I'm no longer going to do that. If I have a bad experience at this place, also communicate with that place and let them know what your experience was like without you having an attitude, because they may not even be aware, or they may be so overwhelmed because they're wearing 10 different hats that they are aware of it, but they need one more person to say, you know what, you need to handle this one thing, and I'll help you. I'll come and help you. I'll help you do that. We need to do more of that.
I agree. It's, I like to say two things I don't do in respect to having worked with other businesses. If someone says, have you ever worked with X, Y, and Z and I had a bad experience, I would say yes. It may not have been a great experience, but they may have been having an off day.
Right.
Yeah. And if someone says, well, what happened, I'm happy to share, but don't go to that business, right? Because you have they could have restructured, they could have fired an employee. So I like to share an experience in an isolated way. Now, if they took my money and ran, for example,
that's a big difference.
That's a big difference. If it's a scam, that's a big difference. But if we're really talking about an isolated experience, the way to build trust in not only the relationship with the person that sought the information, but with the general business community. You know how quickly, Dr. Gigi said blah, 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 blah about my business. Yeah. That spreads. And then now people are like, well, I don't know if I can work with her because if something isn't perfect, she might
tell the world. Yeah, good point.
And I wanted you to, before we run, speak on whatever you want to speak on this or anything else before we run out of time. Because that is important, what you were just saying, because especially in our platform, we have to be wary of who we speak about in a negative way.
Yeah.
Well, I won't say I'm gonna cut you off, but I do want us to tackle our controversial topic of the night.
The relationship.
Should you go in business and work with your mate, significant other, spouse, Dr. Gigi?
So, gosh, that's a loaded question. So let me answer that. Relationship, business aside, let's talk about the relationship first.
Yes.
If you haven't done the relationship work, right, to have a stable relationship as a couple, you should not be in business together because those issues are going to manifest. And they're going to come out in this passive-aggressive format. They're going to come out in meetings. They're going to come out in the most inappropriate way. So it just magnifies when you're in business together. And it really exacerbates both the business and the professional or personal relationship. So
that's an excellent answer.
Does it stunt the growth? Do you think it could stunt the growth of a business? Now, I've seen couples run businesses successfully, but there were couples. Most of them that I know of were couples before they started the business.
Sure.
They didn't start it all together or whatever. Do you think it can stunt the growth of the business if that relationship part is not.
Absolutely, because how do they grow when they have these unspoken expectations, right? And they're not able to be on the same page and even deal with conflict. So if it doesn't stunt the growth of the business, it's certainly going to stunt the growth of the personal relationship, right? Because they take it home.
And that could dissolve the business
And the marriage.
and the marriage.
Right.
I will tell you, I made a ton of money on business conflict resolution with couples.
Yeah.
And, you know, we're talking divorce, that's one side of things, and you got to split up, you know, all the stuff. But then people who've been in a relationship for 5 minutes and say, oh my God, that's a great idea, we should go into business together.
Blows my mind.
Right?
Blows my mind.
And I'm like,
no clue.
That's
No,
love.
that ain't love. That's crazy.
That's love.
That's crazy.
I'm just
No, but that's what happens,
Yeah.
right? Because that temporal high feeling,
Right.
oh my God, you're just a perfect person.
Yeah.
Right.
You know,
right.
you in.
I want to be around you all day.
Yeah.
That's love.
Whew, I'm gonna say this. No, I would say this, and you know, me and my mate, we do work on projects together.
Yeah.
But Lord knows, and I'm sure he feels the same way. He will tell you sometimes we should not work together, and we have two very strong, aggressive personalities.
Yeah.
Working together, like, I know you need to go away and I need to go away. And so for me, I have figured out, and I used to have this dream when I was much younger in business, that I would have this corporation and me and my husband on the top floor and we're power coupling it and blah, blah, blah. And it took me, now I have worked with mates and started businesses and they've been very successful, but I can tell you what didn't last was the relationship.
Yeah.
The business is fine.
Yeah.
The relationship didn't work. So I have now learned that because I'm an excellent segmenter, meaning we could literally be in the car on the way to work and have a knockdown, drag out argument, and then I can walk into the business doors and it's like it never happened.
Okay,
They think I'm nuts.
You're lucky to be able to be in
No,
that spot.
they think I'm crazy because the other person's looking at me like, you just called me
Right.
Pinocchio. And I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But for me, it was, I'm really good at segmenting, and it blows people's minds because it's like, it's almost like when I fight or argue, I have no emotional attachment. I do fight to win.
So we're going to talk offline about
That's a whole different thing.
Seriously, offline about
That's a
that.
whole
'Cause
different
that's
thing.
that's some attachment stuff that we're going to talk about.
Yeah, that's
So
a
you're
whole-
not
that's a
dealing
whole-
with attachment.
I
That's a whole-
totally just
Yeah.
like,
That would be avoidant attachment, by the way.
yeah.
So
And
we're
no,
gonna talk about-
and I will
I
say,
think that was really deep, and
Yeah.
because the reason I said this because I was exactly the same way, and it's a good thing. It's not a. It's a good and it's a good. I don't even want. I'm not a therapist. You're a therapist.
yeah.
Oh, but
Like,
no, look.
but I would say definitely that is a what I was learning in my situation.
Yeah.
It was because of the detachment I had from my dad,
Yeah.
and I learned to basically pretend everything was
Great.
fine, and I could turn it on and off, and I put my emotions down.
Yeah.
But once you know that,
Yeah, I mean,
you do it.
I
And you
know that
and
because
so you're aware of it. That's
the
good.
relationships would fizzle, right? And if
Yeah.
I was looking for a personal relationship, a romantic relationship, a marriage in the end, that was not gonna work because
Right.
you can't throw darts and stones and and then be like,
Right.
so yes, let's go make $1 billion because they're literally looking at you like you're crazy.
Right.
And so for me, I think I learned, no, that dream of power couple, you can Beyonce and Jay-Z in separate studios.
But look at what I mean. I still feel like Beyonce and Jay-Z got a lot of issues.
Oh, they have a lot of issues.
And I'm sure
Yeah.
money and all that stuff is keeping them, but you can feel the energy.
Yes.
They're like looking two different ways every time.
Sometimes
It's not
they
the same.
go,
Yeah.
and
I love them,
sometimes
though. I
they
Just
respect
like
them.
relationships?
Yeah.
Right. So the one thing I did want to say is I think as a whole, African Americans, we were taught that for men, you better not cry, and for girls, you better not get pregnant. Right? And that was with an exclamation mark. Would you
Yeah.
agree with that, right?
Yeah, I agree with you.
Okay.
So the other piece that's missing from those sentences, though, are this is how you handle your emotions.
Yes.
This is how you have a healthy relationship. This is how you get out of a bad relationship. And so that's the information we end up learning either vicariously or through our friends, and we get it wrong.
Right.
So you take that and then you put it into a business relationship.
Mhm.
And it doesn't fare well because you still have to unlearn some things.
Yeah.
And I've learned you don't have to, like I've broken it off with people, and I was like, we don't have to go into a knockdown fight to realize we don't work.
Yeah.
And I think that it's like, even with business, you wait till it's like bankruptcy or whatever happens before you say, you know what, this isn't a good. How many companies have you seen? Like recently, Kroger let go of one of its companies, and the company was like, we thought we were going to be in a relationship forever, a different grocery chain. And Kroger was like, no, this does not work for us in the next 3 years, 5 years where we're going, and so we're going to dissolve this right now. But even though it's going well, we see something down the line that's not going to go well, or we see some, some things that we don't want. And I think in a relationship, you gotta see the bad signs and say, you know what, that's maturity though, and say, we don't have to fight every day. We don't have to fight and it blow up and for us to say we don't work.
No, that's true. I would tell you it blows people's minds again, because I have walked out of relationships more amicably than people would imagine based on how they generally perceive me. But it's really just like, you know what? This ain't the business.
And they take it as arrogant, they take it as whatever, but and it may be that's why we relate so well, because we're similar in that way. But it's just, you just know what you want and know what you don't want.
Yeah, but I think for me, I learned about setting expectations and expressing those set expectations. So what I don't do anymore is assume that we have the same expectations for the relationship, whether it's business or romance. It's literally, this is what I want. And I can tell you, it sounds, people say selfish, people say da-da-da, but that's like, if I don't tell you what I want, I'm assuming you're not a mind reader. If you are, let me get the lotto numbers tomorrow. But in any other instance, I need to really say to you, this is what I'm expecting here. And if we can't check these boxes, it's okay. Like, I'm not gonna, be crazy or hysterical or whatever. But setting expectations has helped me grow so much in business, because now in any relationship, I'm upfront saying, this is what we're coming together to do, spell it out. Boom, 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 and boom. And when I do that, then I've had people say, oh, we're not going to ever be able to do that last thing.
And I think now, the great thing is, I think Shantae and I both have found people that we want and that fulfill those expectations. And so shout out to those people. Happy Valentine's Day. And so it works. So before we run out, do we want to?
So we are going to, I'm going to give you last words on relationships before we do lightning round.
Oh, okay. Well, actually, that was pretty much it about the unspoken expectations, and really just making sure you know how to communicate with each other. You talked about the unspoken expectations. We do get into relationships and think our partner, well, you know me already, why should I have to tell you? You do have to communicate. If you don't communicate your needs, you're setting the other person up. It is a set up, because you're going to get disappointed every time. They just don't know how to meet your needs. So that's important.
I like that.
You got to know so they can know.
Yeah, that's right. And you got to know.
You got to
know.
Like, what you don't want and what you do want, and what you will allow and what you won't allow.
And what's realistic, because we also have these fantasies that we saw on TV, because we get vicarious learning where we learn how to have relationships that are not realistic.
That's for reality shows now.
Well, that's
I
don't even know what
that's a whole
fighting is not normal.
It's not normal.
It's not normal.
It's horrible.
No, so I had to let go of my corporate office, top floor of a 818-story building.
For now.
We're not doing that. If I have a 118-story building, it's gonna be mine. You come visit, but we're not working together. That's not gonna happen. I give you keys, so you can come in when you want.
What's mine is yours, and what's yours is mine.
He in the love spirit this week. So you got time for lightning round?
Yes.
Okay. So she has not heard any of these questions yet. Short answers. Okay. Rapid fire. Okay. Where you from?
Ohio. Toledo.
Toledo.
Yeah.
I'm in Toledo.
I would say go Buckeyes, but yeah.
Hey, go Bucks. I went to Ohio. Favorite food?
At this point, cheese. I'm a vegetarian, and I can't seem to get rid of the cheese. So
I'm struggling with cheese, but I never got rid of the cheese.
I'm trying to be vegan, right? But I can't get rid of the cheese.
There's vegan cheese.
I can't get rid of the cheese. I keep trying it, and I just
no.
Okay, that was a good one.
That was a good one. Okay. All right. Least favorite thing to do.
Wow. Cook.
Yes.
Where do you want to travel to? Like, if you could go anywhere.
Barcelona.
Barcelona?
Yeah, my son is a soccer player, so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That would be, okay.
Yeah.
Perfect.
I promised him a Barcelona trip, so.
That is amazing. Maybe somebody can gift you a Barcelona trip.
Yes.
Just listen.
That would be
There's a
wonderful.
lot of people that do trips and
They watch
yeah, that's look her up. She
Okay.
gave y'all a lot of good advice.
Okay, so Barcelona, let's see. What's your favorite thing to do?
Work out, actually. It's what gives me my energy. I get my zen from there, so, yeah.
Bless your heart. Okay.
In the morning. I cannot do it. I don't even understand how people work all day and go to the gym.
Oh, well, that's what
Shout
I do.
out to
So
Tasha, because I don't know how she does that. My girlfriend. So.
I just left the gym, so I'm more of an evening.
Yeah.
Actually, I go later than this.
It's a personality thing,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, what's your superpower?
Compassion. I only say that because I just
wow.
wrote it in a post.
We need more of this.
She's consistent.
It's helping others. Helping others for sure.
Helping others.
Yeah.
All right, so 2 more questions. Cathay?
If you could save anything or anybody, what would you save or what would you cure?
Hatred.
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 Yeah.
I love it.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
That's the compassion part of it.
Okay. And last but not least, what do you love about Charlotte? What do you hate about Charlotte?
What I love about Charlotte is the token phrase that it says Charlotte's got a lot.
Yeah.
I hate the phrase, but it is so true to Charlotte,
Yes.
right? What I hate about Charlotte right now is the way we're growing and we're pushing people out.
Oh, wow. When you say people, you mean like poor people?
Yes.
Or,
Yeah. We are
The
our
housing
city's
crisis.
our city's changing, and I don't think the ones who are being pushed out even understand the cultural shift that's happening.
Right. So if you think about like, even I'm just quick, decade ago, minimum wage and the price of like, it's like people are still getting paid $7.50 a decade ago, and the economy, the cost of living is rising, and you're still getting paid McDonald's and all those sort of salaries. And it worked 10 years ago, it worked 20 years ago, it don't work anymore.
I saw on the news that last year it said to live well or comfortable in Charlotte, you had to make $39 an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
39?
7 just doesn't equate.
I mean, I don't even,
Yeah.
I was just thinking about it the other day, I was like, these people are still having, when I first got here, almost a decade ago, I could have been okay getting paid $10 or $12 an hour or whatever, and I would have been okay. But it's like, how in the world are these people surviving?
Where do they go?
Yeah.
That's
And if
what
they
I
don't have
wanna know.
family
Where do they
near,
go? Yeah.
because a lot of people commute now.
Yeah.
Gastonia, Salisbury, all these places are booming now because people commute to Charlotte.
Yeah.
So, one bonus question.
Yeah.
You said you are an author, a prolific author, it sounds like.
Yes.
Yes,
Tell
9
us,
books.
what's the name of the latest book and where can we find it?
My comfort tree. So it's on Amazon.
Did you have to think about it?
Well,
You got a lot of
You got a
books.
lot of books?
because really my last one is my dissertation.
You get a book. You get a book. You get a book.
I'm not even trying to say, yeah, you get a book. Yeah, my dissertation, and that's on emotional intelligence and leadership effectiveness for women in banking, so that's cool to live in Charlotte. But My Comfort Tree is a children's book, and it's based on helping children deal with change.
Oh, wow.
And
That's
it's
awesome.
elementary school children, so it's
I
kind of cool.
like it,
Yeah.
like it. All right, Dr. Gigi, where can we find you?
Well, my website is www.personallyenriched.com, and the phone number, if you need that, is 704-968-2253, and I look forward to hearing from you all soon.
Awesome.
And I'm also on
Yes.
Facebook.
Now, where can we find you? So at the end of every show, we always tell people where they can find us for the next week. So are you going to be doing anything, speaking anywhere, interacting in any events this week?
No, because Tuesdays I am going to be teaching tomorrow, and I am in session all day, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with clients. So really, if you want to see me, come get some couch time.
I know, right?
Right?
Sounds like someone is booked and busy.
Yes.
Awesome.
Which is amazing.
Right.
Cathay, where can we find you this week?
So this is the week of Valentine's Day, and since I'm like in this new little spirit or whatever, I'll be doing that and doing something special for Valentine's Day. I hadn't done that in a long time, so it's a long time coming. And as far as work, right now our focus is on CIAA weekend. We have some major events going on that whole weekend, and so you can go to bboclt.com and see all the events that we have that weekend of CIAA.
Awesome.
Where will you
This
be,
week,
Dr.
I am going to just be writing and reading. I'm working on a book.
What's that again?
You heard it, children. I picked up one more thing in life.
I know,
But
right?
I am super excited about it. I will share more details, but I am gathering data and talking to folks and really listening, which is like my favorite thing to do. So you will see me out and about, probably just chatting with people for the next several months, but this week in particular, I'll be talking to a lot of people, and it pertains to wealth, generational wealth, and how to invest in order to get there. So.
And now, so you need to get somebody, what I'm trying to say. You need to get a publisher to come in and,
we talk about publishing a book.
Yeah.
We're going to get some additional advice once I get to the publishing
and
stage.
advance is what I was trying to say. See, I'm trying to get you some money. You need an advance. Yes, that's what I was trying to say.
Well, good. So, happy Valentine's Day for anybody that may not hear Happy Valentine's Day this week. And we love you even if nobody else does.
And they do love you. You just may not know that you love yourself, and then you can love them back.
That's right.
No,
Because you have to love yourself.
You gotta love
love
yourself.
yourself.
You really do.
So, happy Love Week. I'm going to give my own little shout out. Wearing the Winston-Salem State Rams. I am got my HBCU pride on this week. It is colors are red and white. Tomorrow you'll catch me in my Ohio
Even
State
though y'all got
gear.
some things going on HBCU wise that just came in, so y'all don't want to talk about it. Not
See.
y'all. I support HBCU. Let me make sure.
See.
Well, if I say I actually donate more probably HBCUs than I do my own school, Clemson. But that being said,
so proud to be a Ram.
there are some things that's going on that we'll talk about next time.
We're going to continue our before the show topic, so maybe next week we'll talk
It's
about
not something I should be
HBCUs.
smiling about though.
It's okay.
It's sad.
Anywho, this has been In Your Business. Dr. Gigi, thank you so much for sitting with us and interacting with our nuttiness. I know this may be unorthodox in general, but we loved having you.
Yeah.
Can we get you back?
You can.
Good.
It was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, I think
I'd love
relationships
to
are
come back.
vital.
I can talk about relationships all day long. So actually, I do.
Well, that's awesome. This is shout out to Queen City Podcast Network for hosting us, and Nada is our producer.
Thank you, Nada.
He's gonna have us sounding wonderful, and he kept the lighting good. So shout out to him. We'll see you guys next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Okay, so of the 3 shows I've done, that was your best one.